Hello everyone and welcome to the Geek Show. I'm Rob and today we're talking about Sakuna of Rice and Ruin. Now this is a new game that's out on PS4, Switch and PC. It's developed by Edelweiss and published by Xseed and Marvelous. And it's very heavily inspired by traditional Japanese folklore, myth, legend, especially that around the pantheon of gods and the harvest and harvest goddesses, things like that. But there are twists and deviations from the norm. Sakuna is the titular character, and the story begins with a group of refugees who are running away from a war. There is a large samurai who seems a bit clumsy. There is a woman wearing what looks to be a bonnet of some kind. There are two children, a boy and a girl, and a small baby, and they're on the run. And they're running across this bridge that seems to be surrounded by mist, fog, whatever mysterious bridge that goes on for a long period of time until they're waylaid by one of their former friends who is now an enemy. And then they're further waylaid by Sakuna, who is accompanied by her advisor. Sakuna is very, 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 very drunk and is complaining about the fact that there are people on the bridge. She's complaining about the party she has to attend, the Feast of the Gods, and everything like that. Anyway, the refugees are a little bit slow. They don't realise that they're on the path to the God's Kingdom, and they refuse to turn back, thinking, we're starving, they must have some food. So they secretly sneak into the Palace of the Gods, which causes Sakuna all sorts of problems when she realises that she's accidentally led them there. Suffice to say, things happen. Things get burned down in the process, and Sakuna is punished by being banished to the Isle of Devils. She is tasked with pacifying the Isle of Devils, which is how we begin the game. There is a section in the palace, which is actually really, really pretty setting, that shows you how to do your basic character moves, everything like that, before you start with the Isle of Devils itself, and then what you have is your Common or Garden Metroidvania action platformer. But if you think that's all there is to the game, then you're sorely mistaken. There's a whole lot more. You've barely scratched the surface. Because this isn't your normal type of action platformer. In fact, it has more in common with games like Harvest Moon and Rune Factory than just about any other game I've played. Because farming is the key thing. See, Sakuna is a harvest goddess, and her power is dependent on the amount of rice that you harvest. She is also a battle goddess, so her power is also dependent on the number of enemies you kill. That then creates this rather unique and slightly bizarre contrast. See, the more rice you grow and successfully harvest, the stronger Sakuna gets. The more enemies you kill, and by extension successfully harvest, the stronger Sakuna gets. Technically. Because it's a bit more complicated than that. But you'll get into that in the game. You'll see, it's actually a very finely balanced system, which is surprisingly intuitive once you get your head around it. See, the enemies that you kill can give you food, and you need the food to survive. Your hunger is a thing. The more satiated you are, the better off you are. And some meals will give you also extra benefits, where you can heal during the platform action levels, and other aspects like the harvest will give you more bonuses towards the harvest. If you can increase the yield of your harvest, you increase your strength and your hit points and various things like that. So it all kind of works in tandem with the other system, and it's very strange, but also very, very, very intriguing. And I found myself fascinated by this dual system. As somebody who enjoys games like Harvest Moon and Rune Factory and also crafting games as well, Sakuna basically ticked every single box for me. Being from an Asian background, I have planted rice in real life, and I have harvested rice in real life and threshed rice in real life. And it was backbreaking labour. I was a kid at the time, but I still have not fond memories of it. So imagine my surprise when I'm going into a game and I'm having to plant rice. Now, I can't plant in a straight line for toffee. And I'm having to do it in a game where it's basically not giving me straight lines. You'll get the straight lines later on when you get your bonuses. But at the very beginning, when you first start planting rice, Trying to plant it in a straight line, not going to happen. So just do the best you can. When it comes to harvesting the rice, very easy. When it comes to drying the rice, be careful. It's a timed thing. As soon as it hits winter, that'll decrease your yield. And then you have to thresh the rice and then husk the rice. And these are all individual actions. When it comes to threshing and husking, it's joystick movements, and you're having to do it for each batch of rice. And you can get someone else to do it, but if you do it yourself, you'll get more bonuses. And that will give you more benefits, increase your yield, make your character stronger. There are also other additions to your little village, the little area that you're developing. The young boy is actually an apprentice blacksmith, and he can make you better equipment, a better hoe, a better sickle, things like that. The young girl is actually a weaver. She can make you better outfits, new hats, that sort of thing. Now, you have one particular thing that is actually rather cool. It's the raiment of the gods, kind of like a scarf thing. But this scarf you can use as an extensible kind of whip type thing, so you can grab enemies and throw them, or you can grab them and swing yourself around the back and hit them, or you can grab onto platforms or ceilings and pull yourself up or across. It's very, very handy and adds a new element to the traditional platforming approach that games tend to use. It also adds an element of speed as well, and I think Sakuna's not a game for speedrunners because the farming elements have to be slow, they have to be careful, you can't really speedrun farming. But the platforming levels, you can definitely speedrun. That's another aspect where it becomes kind of a bizarre mix of different types of games that shouldn't really work together, but they so totally do. The environments are lush and really detailed. There's a diverse range of animal-based devils, from rabbits and pigs to birds and various other things. One of the nice aspects about this game, though, isn't where it comes to the action platforming. It has a lot to do with the farming. And this is going to sound horrible that I'm saying it's nice, but it has to do with pest control and fertilizer. See, Sakuna, being of a traditional bent, uses traditional type fertilizer. So Sakuna's job, one of her jobs as the harvest goddess, is to basically empty the toilet and turn it into fertilizer. And the composition of the fertilizer, using the different things that you have, will determine how good a yield you get, but also the quality of the rice that you get. In terms of the pesticides, as you go around the hut area, you can pick up grasshoppers and frogs and spiders and things like that. And the more you pick them up, the better you will have pest control, because these things will eat all the insects that are attacking the rice. There is a third aspect though, and that's water control. See, you have to control the amount of water in the paddy field that you have. The samurai happens to be very, very well read in the art of farming, but he's not a good farmer himself. He's all thumbs. So getting his advice isn't a bad idea. The woman with the bonnet, she is a foreigner, but she will be responsible for cooking all the meals, and you can change the menu as and when. Be careful though, because some of the food that you have will spoil quickly. There's also an aspect, which is a very traditional Japanese thing, of making preserves, pickled food and dried food and things like that. A lot of cultures have this aspect, and it's really nice to see it in a game. So that's the game itself, but bizarrely, that's not actually the end of the story. See, Sakuna is one of those strange games where there is a lot of lore, a lot of history that you learn in drips and drabs as the game goes on, and these are stories that are told that parallel certain tales from Japanese folklore. The story itself is about Sakuna's personal growth from being a spoiled young goddess to becoming a proper harvest goddess / battle goddess. A lot of the elements in this are traditional Japanese things. You can basically have dinner with everyone, and there is a scene where everyone will be sitting around eating their meal and enjoying or not enjoying, depending on what's on the menu. Sometimes meals are hard, sometimes it literally is just a little bit of soup and some water. But at other times you can have a feast, depending on what you've managed to hunt and what you've managed to gather and how much rice you have left. And that's, again, where your bonuses will come from for your next day's activities. I went into this game not expecting a lot. I've played a lot of very, very, very Japanese games, and Sakuna is probably one of the most Japanese games I have ever played. But you know what? It's Japanese in the way that I wanted it to be, dealing with traditional Japan, not being focused on samurai or ninja or any of the other usual iconography that you see in games when they're dealing with Japan, but dealing with a side of Japan that people don't really get to see, and I kind of love it for that. It's not your usual game. This is a really, really good game and well worth playing. It's a lot of fun, and if you are interested in Japan, then it's the perfect game for you. In a very real sense, Sakuna is a bit like Okami in that it's a game that is very, very thoroughly traditionally Japanese, that shouldn't work but really does. So that's all from me. Let me know what you think about Sakuna of Rice and Ruin in the comments below. If you like the video, then give us a thumb, a sub, or a bell. And if you want to support us, then check out our Patreon. The details are in the description. If you're after more video game chit-chat, then you can subscribe and join us every Thursday for Impossible Mission. I'll be back soon with another review. But until then, thanks for watching.